You spend thousands on a dream vacation, survive exhausting flights, and finally arrive at a breathtaking location. The lighting is perfect, the mood is set, and you hand your camera to a friend. But when you look at the screen, your heart sinks. The magic is gone. Instead of a cinematic memory, you are staring at a classic, awkward tourist photo. You look entirely out of place, standing stiffly in a chaotic crowd. The majestic architecture looks flat, the background is cluttered, and the image feels like a cheap, disposable postcard. You immediately blame the crowded location or tell yourself that you are simply not photogenic. Let me shatter that illusion permanently. The problem is not your face, and it is not the location. You look like a tourist because you treat the camera as a passive recording device instead of an active storytelling tool. If you do not command the geometry of the space, the randomness of the crowd will dominate your frame. I am Mr. Simple, and I use the simplest, least awkward ways to help you master photography. Today, we are going to destroy the tourist photo forever. No complicated digital editing. We are going to reprogram exactly how you see the world through 4 absolute geometric shifts that eliminate visual clutter instantly, turning you from a passive tourist into the active director of your own visual journey. Shift 1. The highway of depth and leading lines. The biggest mistake amateur travelers make is what I call the flat wall syndrome. They find a beautiful building and stand directly in front of it, entirely parallel to the structure. This compresses all spatial depth into a single layer, trapping the viewer in a two-dimensional box. To break this trap, stop looking at buildings as flat backgrounds and start looking at them as converging lines of perspective. Look down the narrow alleyway or along the sweeping side of the architecture. Find the vanishing point where the parallel lines of the walls and the roof meet and disappear. These extending lines act as a visual highway, dragging the viewer's eye through the frame from the foreground to the deep background, creating a massive sense of three-dimensional depth. But finding the lines is only half the battle. You must physically anchor yourself to them. Never stand awkwardly in the middle of the path. Step to the side and physically lean against the architecture. Lean your shoulder against the ancient stone wall. Rest your arm on a bridge railing, or let your back touch a structural pillar. By connecting your body to the structural lines of the environment, you cease to be a foreign object floating in the foreground. You become an integrated part of the world's geometry. Your body becomes the heavy anchor point that launches the viewer's gaze down the visual highway, creating an immediate sense of cinematic immersion. You are no longer a tourist standing in front of a place. You are a character living deeply within it. Shift 2. The art of foreground occlusion and spatial slicing. The standard tourist instinct is to find a completely clear, unobstructed view of the scenery, ensuring nothing blocks the lens. This instinct is entirely wrong. A perfectly clean, empty foreground is visually dead, creating a vacuum of space that makes the photograph feel flat and lifeless. The secret to professional travel photography is introducing deliberate obstacles into your frame through spatial slicing. Before pressing the shutter, critically analyze the empty space between your lens and your subject. Find something in the environment to put into that void. Position your lens dangerously close to this element so that it becomes massively out of focus, transforming into a soft wash of color that slices across the edge of your frame. This technique is known as creating a dirty frame, and it is a masterclass in visual psychology. By introducing a blurred element in the immediate foreground, you force the camera to render 3 distinct planes: the blurred foreground, the razor-sharp midground where you are standing, and the distant background. This deliberate slicing creates an intoxicating illusion of atmospheric depth, giving the photograph a feeling of physical breadth. More importantly, it makes the viewer feel like a secret observer, peeking through hidden layers to catch a candid, unscripted moment of your journey. It is the ultimate antidote to the staged, stiff feeling of a standard vacation picture. Shift 3. The telephoto reversal and the atmospheric blur. This brings us to our third shift, a counterintuitive technique for the casual traveler, the telephoto reversal. When taking a portrait while traveling, most people demand that the person's face be razor sharp while the background is completely blurred out. This is fine for a standard studio portrait, but in travel photography, it is a massive waste of a beautiful journey. Why travel thousands of miles to a breathtaking architectural wonder, only to blur it into an unrecognizable mush just to show the details on your face? Switch your camera or smartphone to a telephoto setting, such as a 3x or 5x optical zoom. Step far back from your subject, creating dramatic physical distance. Now, here is the crucial cinematic reversal. Instead of focusing your lens on the person in the foreground, manually lock your focus onto the majestic architecture or the sprawling mountain range in the deep background. Deliberately let the person in the foreground fall completely out of focus, turning into a soft, anonymous silhouette. This is an incredibly powerful narrative tool. By blurring the human figure and keeping the magnificent destination sharp, you strip away the ego of the photograph. The person is no longer screaming for attention. Instead, the blurred figure acts as a psychological surrogate. When people look at this photograph, they project themselves into that soft silhouette, feeling the exact awe and the massive scale of the architecture towering in the background. It shifts the entire emotional weight from look at my face to look at the vast world I am experiencing. Shift 4. The upward tilt and the canvas of the sky. Finally, we arrive at the ultimate tactical weapon against every traveler's worst nightmare: chaotic crowds. Unless you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, every famous monument will be swarming with hundreds of other tourists. If you shoot straight on at normal eye level, your photograph will inevitably be ruined by a messy sea of random heads, brightly colored backpacks, and exhausting background noise. You cannot control the crowd, but you can absolutely control your geometric perspective through the upward tilt. When trapped in a heavily congested area, abandon the standard eye-level perspective immediately. Lower your camera aggressively down toward the ground, perhaps to waist level, and tilt the lens sharply upward toward the sky. This simple angle change acts as an instant visual eraser for crowds. By looking up, you completely cut the messy horizon line and all distracting people out of the bottom edge of your frame. Instead, your subject is instantly framed against the cleanest, minimalist canvas available, the open sky. Simultaneously, this upward perspective captures the grand, towering scale of high architecture, making buildings look imposing, heroic, and intensely dramatic. The person in the frame, shot from this lower angle, appears infinitely more confident, elegant, and perfectly isolated from the chaotic noise happening just out of frame below them. You have successfully taken a crowded tourist trap and geometrically engineered it into a clean, peaceful, and highly editorial fashion shot. It requires zero digital manipulation. It only requires the mental discipline to look up when everyone else is staring straight ahead. The philosophy of the cinematic journey. When you integrate these 4 structural shifts, your entire travel experience changes. You stop seeing the world as flat backgrounds to stand in front of, and you start seeing a dynamic matrix of extending lines, rich foreground textures, shifting focal planes, and dramatic angles. Leading lines ground your body in the space. Slicing the foreground creates breathing room. Reversing telephoto focus tells a story of vast scale, and tilting upward rescues your memories from the chaotic crowd. You are no longer a victim of bad geometry. You are a deliberate master of visual selection, fully embracing the mindset of the cinematic director. Remember this essential truth. Travel photography is never about proving to the world that you simply existed in a famous location. It is the absolute discipline of capturing exactly how that specific space made your soul feel, because a landscape untouched by human emotion is just geography, but a place filtered through a quiet lens becomes an eternal home for the wandering spirit. If you want to understand the deeper philosophy of visual design and master photography through the simplest, least awkward methods, hit the subscribe button right now and join our studio community. Leave a comment below telling me which technique you will use on your next great adventure. I am Mr. Simple, and I use the simplest ways to help you master photography. I will see you in the next frame. Peace.